Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ben here, and today I'm bringing you another Survivor video. And today I'm going to be doing something a bit different than what I usually do with Survivor videos. Usually I talk about some facet of the game that's my favorite, or why a player deserved to win who didn't win. But today I'm going to be flipping the script a little bit and arguing why a person that won the game did not deserve to win. And not somebody like a weak winner like Fabio, where you could say, well, there's a bunch of reasons why he didn't deserve to win. I'm going to focus in on a player who everyone would agree hands down deserved to win, and try and make an argument for why he did not deserve to win and somebody else did. So this is a thing that I think will be hard to argue, and I think that most people would disagree with. But I think why I'm doing this video is because I think with the right jury member, or maybe the right or wrong jury members, depending on how you look at it, a player that can deserve to win Survivor oftentimes doesn't, and players that don't deserve to win can often win. So I just want to prove that even in seasons where the winner seems like a slam dunk, it can easily be a different way and somebody else can win who may not necessarily deserve to win. The reason I want to do this video is I've watched a lot of seasons of Survivor, and I feel like I can identify people who got to the final tribal clearly, in my mind, deserve to win, and because of a bitter jury or some some minor slip up in how they talked to the jury at final tribal cost them the win, when really if you look at the total body of work, they did deserve to win and don't because of some stupid little thing. So my primary people that I'm thinking of in these types of things are like Boston Rob. He didn't win in Survivor All-Stars, and he really deserved to compared to Amber. And a big reason that people attribute him not winning is that in Final Tribal, he had betrayed a lot of people, and they all kind of called him on it and said, man, Rob, you were so trusting, and then you just backstabbed all of us. And then Boston Rob went on kind of and did a lot of apologies and said he was sorry for doing what he did. But he later on has identified in later seasons that his big mistake was apologizing for his gameplay. And so I think that that's kind of my motivation, in that I think that you can prove with almost any winner big reasons why they should not have won. Another example for me would be Russell and Samoa. I think that he definitely deserved to win, and because of the jury and just him acting because basically in Final Tribal he was overconfident, people didn't vote for him, I think, when he really deserved to win. Because if you look at his whole body of work, he did so much more than the other two at Final Tribal Council to get the votes. But yet people were just kind of sick of him and his arrogance, and so they didn't vote for him when I think that they really should have. But oh well. So the person I'm going to argue why they should not have won their season, spoilers ahead in case you haven't seen it, but it's Survivor Redemption Island, which is season 22, which actually features both of the players that I was just talking about in why each of those guys should have won. This season had both Russell and Boston Rob on it. And I'm going to argue why the slam dunk win by Boston Rob should not have been a win, and why he actually should have lost this season. Now, a big portion of this hinges on a bitter jury, that whole phenomenon of a bitter jury. If you don't know about it, it's basically the concept that a jury doesn't vote for the clear-cut winner because they're bitter about how they were voted out. And so, like, as a punishment, they don't vote for the guy who deserves to win. So Boston Rob really benefited in this season in that people were not bitter, or for the most part were not bitter, and he got 8 of the 9 votes, and there was 1 vote for Philip and none for Natalie. But I'm going to make the argument that he did not deserve to win. So I think when you look at Boston Rob's game, you have to break down, okay, as we always do, and as I always do, social game, strategic game, and ultimately gameplay. So, okay, let's look at it. Boston Rob probably played one of the best strategic games any Survivor player ever has. I'll give him that. But I'm also going to knock him for one thing, which is this. He was a 4-time player coming into this game. This was his 4th time playing Survivor. Everyone else except for Russell, who was like one of the first people voted out, was a first-time player. So he had an enormous advantage over everybody, and it would be the equivalent of I don't know, like an NBA veteran playing a high school rookie and like expecting the high school rookie to have a chance. Like, no, this guy was head and shoulders above everybody just as far as knowing how to play the game, what to expect. And honestly, that's why this season got a lot of criticism, is that it feels like the producers were just trying to hand Boston Rob a win because he had been on so many times and people liked him so well, which I think is really bad. But all right, moving beyond that. So Boston Rob did play great strategy. He got Matt out at just the right times. When they merged at 12 people and they thought he was on his side and they thought that they had a 7-5 advantage, Boston Rob was like, I don't know about this, and he convinced his entire tribe besides Matt to vote Matt out, because if Matt were to flip, it would have been 6-6. Now Matt ultimately didn't flip and stayed with what they told him, which was a fake name. So the ultimate vote was 6 for Matt, 5 for Rob, and 1 that Matt voted just randomly, so then Matt went home. This was the best play by Rob, because then for the rest of the season they had a 6-5 advantage, and they were able to wash out the other tribe and just get down to a final 6 of their group. The problem with this, though, I think, was the way that they treated the other tribe after they had that 6-5 advantage. So now, you may say that Boston Rob played the best strategic game ever, but you could also argue he played one of the most atrocious social games ever. Now, was he overtly rude and disrespectful like Russell was in, say, Survivor Heroes vs. Villains? No, he wasn't insulting people. He wasn't being a complete jerk, but he did enforce a strict policy with the people in his alliance that was, we will not talk to the other tribe in social situations no matter what. We will completely ignore them. We will never eat with them. We will never share shelter or food or luxuries with them whatsoever. We will just act like they don't exist and that they're subhuman. And it was really intense when you're watching the episodes. We see 5 minutes of it, but if you realize that like this was going on for weeks, that's like pretty intense, that Boston Rob was commanding this group of 6 people to not talk to these other 5 no matter what, and like to ignore them, and the other tribe would do things like offer them rice and stuff, and then Boston Rob would say like, no, we don't associate with them and stuff like this. And it's like, it's a game. You're just supposed to like have fun socializing. Yes, there's money involved, but is it worth like just totally being a jerk as far as your social game? Like, it's just money. Amber already won. You already have enough money, Boston Rob. You don't have to worry about this. Like, you have 2 kids. It's not, and you live in Boston. It's not like you have a family of 10 and you really need the money. You and Amber both have comfortable jobs. It's not worth like sacrificing your integrity and stuff to treat these people really poorly. And you could say I'm blowing this way out of the water, but I think that you really have to consider that we see 5 minutes of how they treat them, but this is going on for weeks, which is a bigger deal than I think people are considering. Also, stuff like they would just offer them like a spoonful of rice, and like Boston Rob would say no, and then Philip, it seems like, would like slap the rice out of people's hands and stuff like that, and it was just weird stuff. And I was I don't know, when Boston Rob pulled all this stuff where he had the young girls like shaving him and like doing little like spa treatments on his face and stuff, like I feel like that came off poorly socially as well, and that it seems like he's this prima donna, and he like he was treating the game as if him winning was a foregone conclusion, which I feel like is a big weakness to his social game. Just that he didn't have regard for many people. So that being said, he had a great strategic game. I'm arguing that he had a terrible social game. You could argue that he had a great social game and that he made the alliances early on. But this is trying to play devil's advocate, so I'm trying hard, guys, to make it seem like Boston Rob didn't deserve to win, just to prove the point that you can argue that people don't deserve to win. But okay. Moving on from that. Talking about his gameplay. Yes, he did well in gameplay. I think he won 2 to 3 challenges, which is good. He really benefited, though, in that, I don't know if Survivor does this on purpose or not sometimes, but there were a lot of puzzle challenges, and like it's been documented or something like from his early seasons that he's really good at like puzzle heavy challenges, and they had quite a few puzzle heavy challenges, and Jeff would always comment and say, Boston Rob is great at puzzle challenges, sort of to signal like, I don't know. I was questioning when that was happening, like, did they put this challenge in just because they know Boston Rob is good at it and they want him to exceed and excel in this season, or what's the deal? But yeah, so that's basically why I'm going to highlight why he doesn't deserve to win, is that like the challenges seem to sometimes be tailor-made for him. He treated people really poorly, and you can't say anything bad about a strategic game because it was great. So that's how you could argue that he played a bad game, in that he had let's assign -1 to gameplay because he got an easy break. -1 to social game because he treated the other tribe poorly, and +1 to his gameplay, or strategy. So you'd have a -1 score. Now let's look at Philip, who I think is the other guy who you could argue, if anyone, he'd be the next winner up. He would have been one of the weakest winners of all time, making no strategic moves throughout. Well, one key strategic move throughout the whole game. Bad social game, didn't do anything in gameplay. So gameplay challenges, he won none, so that's going to be a 0 score for that. Social game, he made a huge deal that Steve was being a racist, and he was not, and he made a bunch of enemies, it seems like, on both his alliance and the other alliance, so I'm going to give him a -1 for that. And so then we have to look at his strategy, which is really, it's hard to decipher because he played essentially the keep a low profile and not be a big target game, even though he was talking a lot, and because of that constant jabbering, people wanted to get him out, not because he was a threat, just because he was annoying, which is something pretty rare in Survivor, that people get rid of you just because you're annoying. Or at least later on in the game. It might happen early on, but post-merge, when numbers are really important, that doesn't happen nearly as often. But okay, so moving on from that, Philip really played you might call it the Sandra game of anybody but me, and he just was riding coattails and just hiding behind Boston Rob as the big target the whole time. But honestly, once they got the 6-5 advantage after the first vote of the merge, none of their team even had to strategize, really. Like, none of the 6 in the majority had to do any strategizing because they were just all going to stick together no matter what and not flip no matter what. So, like, you can't really say yes, I guess you could say he didn't make any big decisive move that deserved to win. He just piggybacked on Boston Rob's one big move, getting mad out. But like after that, when you had 11 people down to like the final 3, there was never a need for him to make a move because Boston Rob was never going to get rid of him. So he did a good job in that he was never the one that people wanted to get out. But the problem with that too is that when people don't want to get you out, it means that you haven't played a good enough strategic game, basically. So I don't know. I think in a crazy world, Philip could have won this season if the jury would have been way more bitter. But the jury wasn't, and to Boston Rob's, to his advantage, because if this would have been a bitter jury, I think that honestly Philip would have won Survivor. People would have just really not liked Boston Rob like they did in All Stars, and rewarded it to the person that just was his sidekick the whole time, like Amber was in All Stars. So that being said, it's really hard to argue that Boston Rob did not deserve to win this season. I'm just doing this whole video to be a devil's advocate and prove that you can't argue that people who won didn't deserve to win and people who didn't deserve to win could win. I'm doing this based on the idea that a lot of times I think the jury gets it wrong and they argue points that are not the clear-cut ones and the points that are sort of more like devil's advocate points, but then people latch onto those and really believe them and go with them instead of looking at the more logical, factual ways that the game was played and coming to more reasonable conclusions. So I'm sort of giving you a slice of what I think sometimes the jury's thought process is when they make the wrong decision. That's what my goal was with this video. I don't know if it worked. Hopefully it did. Hopefully you liked the video. And I'll be seeing you again soon, guys. Alright, bye.